The Roxy Hospital. Exhibitors Herald World. May 11th, 1929. The problem of what to do with a baby when his parents want to go to the motion picture show has been settled at the Roxy Theater in New York. There is no check room for the youngsters, but when several days ago the management was confronted with two young people who wanted to park the child while they were seeing the show, the problem was quickly solved. The theater hospital had been installed by S.L. Rothafel, the famous Roxy, for emergencies, and by stretching a point, it was decided that this family of three was providing a real emergency. And so the child was left in the care of the registered nurses, and was soon happily playing with the sterilizer and the operating table, while Mother and Dad went in to see the show. It is a regulation hospital, this place on the 4th floor of the Roxy. It has separate wards, one for men and one for women, and private rooms as well. Its equipment is such that it can stand up with any hospital, even the professional kind. As a matter of fact, it has a Board of Health license, and all the other sundry permits which make a hospital out of an infirmary. The boast of its 2 registered nurses is that if an epidemic should break out in New York, the Roxy Hospital would be drafted to take care of cases brought in. Figures for the hospital during the 2 years just completed reveal the fact that more than 14,000 cases were taken care of. Considering that this feature of Roxy's service is purely institutional, and that unlike other hospitals, its activity is limited to patrons of the theater and employees, the total figure is little less than astonishing. There are a few isolated instances where emergency cases have been brought to the hospital from the street. Automobile accidents were responsible for 2. Slippery streets accounted for about a dozen, and the summer's heat brought 8 patients into the wards of the hospital. As to the rest, they were all derived from the ranks of those employed and those who visited the theater. Dancers have treasuresome but troublesome ankles, and they get out of order more often than the innocent bystander thinks. Workers backstage have a knack for dodging injury, but splinters have a way of getting in under the most careful of skins and starting an infection on its way. Projectionists seem unable to escape lacerations and burns, and the way from the projection booth to the hospital is more or less a beaten path. Of the total figure, about 11,000 have been cases among the theater's personnel. Cases running the gamut from splinters to dislocated shoulders were attended to in the regular course of hospital routine. At least 20 workers required continual treatment over a period of time, sometimes months long. This hospital, as is the case with most hospitals, has its regulars as well as its emergency cases. There is a regular patron of the Roxy Theater who is just as regular as a patient of its hospital. His arrival at the theater sets the machinery in motion. He weighs about 200 pounds and is a war veteran suffering from shell shock. The slightest amount of emotion aroused in him causes an epileptic seizure. When he comes to the Roxy, the first thing he does is let the office know where he is sitting, usually in back of the orchestra. An usher is then detailed to watch him, and at the first sign of something wrong, this patron is carried to the hospital. There are stretchers placed all over the house, and the ushers who are instructed in almost everything else are also instructed in the most effective methods of stretcher bearing. Once in the hospital, our friend is put into the care of one of the registered nurses. After an hour or 2, he comes to again, puts on his hat, and says thank you. Then, wistfully, he says something about a fellow having to go to the movies even if he is shell-shocked, and leaves. It is significant that with more than 14,000 administerings of treatment, calls for doctors had to be made only 32 times. In all other cases, the 2 registered nurses, constantly in charge of the Roxy Hospital, achieved the necessary results. Their special training for this specific work has rendered them fully capable of coping with the varied situations they encounter. The operating room of the hospital fairly bristles with efficient-looking instruments. There is an operating table and full operating equipment, so that if the necessity should arise, a major operation could be performed right on the premises. An umbrella-like lamp over the table gives illumination equal to clear daylight. It is lined with small panels of glass reflecting the light so that no shadows are cast upon the object illuminated. It is one of the first brought to this country from Europe. In almost constant use for nose and throat treatment and for the soothing of singers who have irritated vocal cords is the Sorensen unit. It can be adapted to almost any type of nasal and throat work, from innocent spraying to surgical operations. The mere turn of a dial changes the character of the unit. And of course, there are sterilizers for instruments and utensils, drums for clean cotton and gauze, and all the other accoutrements of modern medical establishment. All equipment is arranged so that hands need never be used in their operation. By means of a foot pedal contraption, they can be moved, opened, and closed. Even water is drawn by means of the foot. The most interesting part of the room is the steel instrument and medicine closet. All the surgical instruments and appurtenances are laid out in the order of their possible use. The entering surgeon needs do nothing but put on his coat, his mask, and his gloves. Everything is in readiness for any conceivable operation. Recognition came to this hospital several months ago from the National Organization for Public Health Nursing in Commerce and Industry. The Roxy Hospital was called the only institution of its kind, and was selected as a representative organization containing complete hospital and nursing equipment.